We're live. Woohoo. Okay, folks, here I am, Taylor Ellwood, and welcome, magical experimenters. If you're coming to this video, we're talking about part 2 of how to deal with burnout. And, of course, it's a bit of an update about my life as well. I know. You guys are like, oh, you guys seem to be pretty supportive of that right now, which I'm very thankful for. So first things first, if you're coming into this video and you're just starting to watch it, make sure you go ahead and click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already, and then click the like button, and feel free to share like that. So, how to deal with burnout part 2. Well, what I want to really talk about today, and I think this is important in both your magical practice and your mundane life, is how to recognize when you are doing activities that are actually feeding your burnout and creating a sense of burnout in your life. And I came to this realization myself this last week, which I'll share in a little bit. So, burnout is a state of being. It is an experience. And when we are burning out, we are in a state where we're kind of like we've hit bottom and there's no way to climb back up. It doesn't feel like it at the time. But sometimes and sometimes what will happen is people will try and scramble out of the pit that they're in. They will try and get out. And what they don't realize is that that's actually not a good thing for them to be doing. And I've talked a bit about that. Let's talk about that a little bit more, because what ends up happening is that people will get engaged in activities that are actually feeding that burnout. It could be a mundane activity. It could be doing some type of activity where, like, you're trying to force yourself to do the activity that you think you need to be doing. Like in my case, back in 2017, it was forcing myself to take even more online classes from online marketing bros. Or like most recently for me, it was trying to do a job that just wasn't the right fit for me, no matter what. And I just had to be willing to take a step back and go back to the drawing board and let that job go. In my case, so in that latter case, so basically I'd gotten a customer support job recently. And I realized a few weeks into it, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I was starting to feel really like each day I was getting ready to go into this job and not feeling good about it. And I compared to that to when I was going dashing, and I realized, I'm gonna give this job up. So I quit. The sweep into my burnout. I wasn't wanting to instead. Don't get me wrong. I like long walks. They're good for you. And, but I realized I was continuing to do something that wasn't feeding me. And that was if anything, was taking away from me, even though it was providing something in the form of some stable income and benefits. It wasn't really providing me a sense of well-being up here or in here. And it was taking away from my creativity. So I had to make a hard decision, and that's what I basically did. Is I decided to walk away from that job and go back to the drawing board. I mean, fortunately, I can do dashing right now, so that's pretty easy to do. But I've already got some people that are like I've already got an interview next Wednesday for something that I think is a bit more suitable for where I'm at right now, and I've already got a friend of mine who is looking into some possibilities for me. And these possibilities actually fit into mid to long-term plans that I have, because I've already decided that I'm going to go back to school, not this fall, but next fall. I'm going to go back to school and explore getting a master's in counseling. I think I would be really good at it. I've got certainly enough experience giving advice to people and things like that. And there's something about it that really appeals to me, along with whatever else I'm doing. So, I mean, I realized in my case that I had to be willing to go back to the drawing board, because otherwise it was going to continue to feed my burnout. And really what's been interesting to me in this past month in particular is that things have just kind of fallen away that I was trying to do. Like, I tried to do freelance writing, and I realized that the freelance writing was contributing to my burnout, because doing all that prospecting just brought me back to the days of being of business coaching, or I do prospecting. and some people would say, well, Taylor, like, look, dude, you just have to commit and do stuff. And I did commit. I mean, I committed a good 2 months to that process. I even got a couple of meetings with people, but I didn't find that it was really sustaining for me. And I realized I didn't want to do writing for other people. So like I let that go. And I mean, I spent a little bit of money on classes to find that out, and it was worth it. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes you have to spend some resources to figure out what you don't want to do in your life, and that's okay. I mean, I think that it's actually a good thing to be able to do sometimes if you are in a space where you can do it. And fortunately, I've been in a space where I can do it. So, I gave that up. I gave up the customer support job. Now I'm going back to dashing for a bit, because that, of all the things I've done in the last few months, has been the one thing that I haven't hated it. I haven't always enjoyed it, but I've enjoyed it for the most part. And I think, like I'm looking into doing some other type of courier job for the short term. I don't want to do this stuff forever. And I still want to write and create classes, and I'm still enjoying the writing and all that. So those are things that are important too. And those are things that feed and sustain me. So it's important, like when you're in an experience of burnout, that you realize like what is taking away from you. Now, my experience of burnout has been caused by the divorce, but I feel like I'm starting to come out of that too. Like I'm actually, this last week, I actually started to feel more like myself. And this weekend, actually, well, this weekend I had a wonderful weekend with a really wonderful person. We'll just put it that way. And it was good, and it was sustaining, and it and I look forward to just exploring where things go. I'm not looking at anything super committed or anything like that, but it's just nice it's just no expectation, but it's nice to have that connection too. So I'm excited about that. I'm not going to say anything more about it right now because I don't want to jinx it or anything else. But the thing is like it's important to find the people and the activities that feed you. Today, as I was driving home from said weekend, I ended up going over to a friend's place, and I was talking with that friend about my future plans, and I didn't know why, but I did. And then she's like, if I can get you a job at where I work, and like there's some possibilities, I can talk to some people, that might actually help you with your mid to long term goals, because then you would have something that would actually, you could use for tuition reimbursement. It would cover some of your tuition for what you want to do, and it could lead to a possible like job down the line doing what you want to do, where you'd be doing something else initially as a courier or whatever else. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I think it's interesting because when you also learn to listen to your intuition and allow certain things in, that's when and like when to connect with the right people, doors do open up. A lot of people would be like, well, Taylor, as a magician, why don't you just have all your act together and everything else? And my answer to that is, like, when you start your life over, you find different ways to get your act together. I mean, I think the fact that I am 4 months into this whole process of restarting my life over from scratch with almost nothing, I've actually done pretty damn well. And I'm starting to feel like myself again. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling excited about things. I'm actually looking forward to things. And I mean, there's been some other things too. Some interesting experiences. I went to a movie the other night with a friend, and I ended up spending a lot of that movie just thinking about all the movies I'd went to with my ex-wife, because that was the first time I'd gone to a movie theater. I know the next time I go to a movie theater with a friend, I probably won't think about that, or at least not as much, and so on and so forth. So I mean, there's also the fact that you have to kind of rewrite the experiences in your life and start to move forward, and that's what I'm doing. Hard as it might be at times to do. So I think, like, in terms of dealing with burnout, like whatever your burnout is, whatever it's caused by, first identify the things that you're doing that are maybe feeding it, and stop doing them. Now, maybe it's just that you stop doing them for a little while. Like, let's say you have spiritual burnout from your magical work. Or maybe what it is that you just stop doing magical work for a bit and give yourself a chance to rest. That's a perfectly valid reason to rest. And then you come back to it, or you do something different. Or maybe it's that, or maybe it is that you're doing something that is taking away from the overall quality of your life. Like, You might be doing a job that pays the bills, but you're miserable at that job. Well, let me tell you, it's not worth it to do that job and be miserable. It's not worth it to do other activities and be miserable because you think you have to do them. I think one of the biggest things that's helping me in terms of the whole burnout thing and recovering from it is that I'm really, in my particular case, I'm identifying certain behaviors and things where I'm seeing, like, I've been reading this book called The Codependency Recovery Book. And in reading it, I'm really starting to see, like, my behaviors and how I set myself up for failure in my life. In that way, like in terms of my relationships and being codependent, because I was putting the needs of other people before my own. Sometimes you have to do that, but when you do it all the time and you become a people pleaser, it really kills you. And that's what was happening for me, in a lot of ways. I was putting other people's needs before my own. And I mean, I'm not going to say that there weren't times that I was expressing some needs of my own. I was in certain ways, but in other ways I was not. And that too contributed to my burnout. And so as I'm doing this realization I'm having, I'm changing my relationship with myself. I'm starting to say no more. I'm starting to speak up more. I'm starting to recognize when I need to just say, like, look, this is going on in my life and I need you to understand, or whatever. So there's power in all of that. And I invite you to step into that power in and of yourself, that if you want to recover from burnout, look at the reasons behind your burnout and start addressing them. And then what you're going to find is that you are going to find a way forward. It may not be an easy way forward. I mean, I'm not, I did a tarot reading. It was about last week or so. I did a tarot reading on like the possible path forward. And the one thing that stood out to me is that it said, at the beginning, the path is going to be rough. You're going to have some stuff, but it's going to get easier and things are going to move forward. And I'm like, yeah, right now it is rough, but things are going to get better, because I'm not going to give up, because I am starting to get some perspective on where I want to go and what I want to do with the mid to long term of my life already. I've got that kind of figured out. And I know plans change. I get that. But, like, when you have a sense of a goal or a direction you can go in, that in and of itself can help you move forward from a devastating situation. And that's what's happening for me. I found something to move me forward. I still have to process a devastating situation, and I am. It's just making it easier to, because now I've got a direction to go in. And that's something that can help you with your burnout too. All right, so that's it for today. I just wanted to check in with you wonderful folks. And thanks to all the people who in one form or another are being supportive through this process. There's so many of you. And honestly, it just really humbles me and touches me that I have this amazing community in person and online that cares about me and has been there for me these last 4 months in one form or another, and longer, but, like, really has shown up. I know I'm not alone. Sometimes I felt alone, but I know I'm not alone. And that's because of all of you wonderful people. And I really appreciate you. So thank you.